Welcome back to Dot Life Season 2, Episode 1. So excited to be back.
So good to be back.
Missed you so much.
We missed you too. I missed the whole gang here, and it didn't feel like a month went by, but it did pretty quickly.
Yeah, it didn't. Should we take another break?
Sure.
I'm tired.
No, you can't take a break. It's Season 2. You gotta hit this hard. We got a lot to talk about.
I'm excited to be back. There's so much to cover this season.
Yeah. Are you talking about Season 2 of Dot Life, or are you talking about the NFL season? Because it feels like you're talking about NFL season.
I'm so happy you brought that up, Bill.
Mm-hmm. You brought it up. You wore the shirt. I mean.
Well, it is football season starting on Sunday.
Yes.
Bills, Ravens. We drew a tough opening.
Yeah, you get the Ravens, right? It's like
Yeah.
a rematch of, what was it, the AFC Championship?
No, the divisional semifinal game.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah. That we
So
won.
what's your prediction? What do you think the Bills are going to do this year?
I don't know. For this game, I don't know because, Lamar, Derrick Henry, we're not going to stop the run. So
Right.
we got to stop the passing game, and our corner situation, our safety situation is a little rough right now. So I don't know.
For those just joining, by the way, we're talking about the Buffalo Bills, not the New England Patriots, because
The Patriots
someone here,
stink.
well, wait a minute. I don't know. We'll see. This still could be a rebuilding year, but I'm thinking the Patriots are going to probably win eight games.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think they're going to come in second in the division.
Mm-hmm.
So, the Bills are going to win the division most likely, which means we will get in the playoffs.
Not too shabby, though, for a team that's like, kind of rebuilding, new coach this year, Jim Vrabel. There's a lot of excitement.
Mike Vrabel.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Mike. Is Jim his dad or something?
Maybe, I don't know.
They were lying on the radio when I was driving, and then that's basically all I know.
Yeah,
So
I'm already impressed. It's better than season 1. Good
thanks.
job.
Well, you scolded me for not having any football sensibility.
You spent
so
the
here you go.
entire break cramming. I'm impressed.
Right, just the drive over here, actually. But I'm excited about Boston College football. They're undefeated at the moment, 1-0.
Awesome.
Absolutely destroyed the very fearsome Fordham Rams last weekend, 66-11. So
Oh, yikes.
that's my team at
Were
the
you
moment.
there? No, you weren't there.
I wasn't. We were in Ireland, but
Yeah.
my sons who go to Boston College were there. So that's and because I'm a part owner now of Boston College, I'm obviously very invested in the results.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We got a lot to cover this week.
Yeah. What do you want to talk about today?
A few topics. Let's do election news.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a couple of new things happening in the rental market here in Boston.
Yes.
There's a classic car show going on.
That's a lot of fun. We'll talk about that towards the end, I
let's get
think.
into that. At least one restaurant opened while we were away.
At least one.
Yep. And we'll talk a little bit about your trip because I want to hear about that.
Sure. We went to Ireland, and we'll get to that, too.
Yeah.
So you want to start about the election, and I just voted on the way over here, by the way.
nice.
This is Thursday that we're taping this before the election's on September 9th, obviously.
Yep.
And there's been several days now, including last weekend, of early voting. And what we know about that so far is that it's been kind of low. Like, the turnout is not
really?
great. There were, on Monday, there had been only 2,700 voters citywide who came to the early voting that weekend.
How does that compare to other years?
It's lower than I'd expected
Like a-
for
like
a
a
mayoral
ton,
year.
or-
No, but it's
Okay.
off. It's
Okay.
definitely not, in a competitive mayoral election, I would expect to see at least, we're tracking towards 20%, and I'd expect to see it higher, like maybe a third of the city electorate.
Wow.
Today, when I voted at Florian Hall, which is one of the places open today on Thursday,
Yeah.
and there was like 3 other people voting when I was there, and they said there had only been about 100.
All day.
All day, and I was around 6 o'clock, so it was 2 hours left, but not a great showing. And there were as of Monday, there were 20,000 roughly people who had voted by mail. So
I did mine in a Dropbox. Had
Okay.
they counted those yet? Do you know?
they had, as of Monday, up about 22,000 of those in.
Okay.
So more to come, obviously. And then, but what we have to hope for at this point is that the September 9th turnout, the actual election day, when polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., that we see a surge of voters.
Guys, go out and vote. Your vote matters. This is an election where even 1-2 votes can make a big difference. Go out and vote.
It definitely can, and certainly might at the at-large city council level, or if you're a voter in District 7, where there's basically an open seat, and there are 11 candidates running. They'll be narrowed down to 2 on Tuesday. And obviously, the mayoral election is the big ticket item with Michelle Wu running against 3 challengers, Josh Kraft, Domingos De Rosa, and Robert Capucci. It's pretty clear that this is going to come down to Kraft and Wu, probably in the reverse order there. Michelle Wu, back in July, had, according to public polling, a 30-point margin of advantage in polls over Joshua Kraft. But, a lot could have happened since then. That's the summer doldrums. We're now into the peak season. I tend to think that things narrow up a little bit in polling. But there has been some turmoil in the Kraft campaign even this week. 2 of his top advisors who've been with him since even pre-day one of him announcing his campaign back in January left the campaign. We're not sure whether they were asked to leave or if they quit.
Okay.
But 5 days before the prelim to
not a good
lose
sign.
Right, to lose the top managers of your campaign isn't great.
Yeah.
You would think that might happen the day after the preliminary, maybe you weren't satisfied with the performance of the team or whatever. But despite that hiccup for him, Josh Kraft announced today on Thursday that he's putting another $3.5 million into his campaign to self-finance the next round.
So their departure was not a giving up sign.
Not by the candidate. It could have been some dissatisfied folks within the camp.
Yeah.
He spent a ton of money already, $2 million plus of his own money, and hasn't had a huge fundraising lift from other donors. Maybe it's because they figure he can pay for it himself, but also usually fundraising is a signal of people being careful with this campaign. The poll numbers haven't been great. And Michelle Wu has this huge advantage of basically running against Donald Trump too, and every time the president opens his mouth and says anything about Boston, it's a vote magnet for Michelle Wu.
Yeah.
So it's a tough spot for him to be in, but nevertheless, he's, I guess, prepared to put even more of his own personal, fortune into this mix. The big question, Aaron, is going to be not whether or not Michelle Wu tops the ticket on Tuesday, but by how much.
Yeah,
and if the margin is under 10 points, that's a good thing for Kraft. Expectations are so low.
That would be a huge gap closed.
Huge gap closed. If he's even maybe 15 points, it'd be like a surprise. Like, okay, we thought he was going to absolutely get his clock cleaned. And he's, it's not quite striking distance, but, with that kind of money, you never know. My expectation, it's not going to be that close. Okay. It'll be, north of 20 points, I think. And that's really hard to catch up from, especially in this climate federally. And yet here we are. We have an election, and we'll see how it plays out. The at-large race is the other one I'm watching very closely. I think it's going to be an interesting night on Tuesday locally.
And how many candidates are we looking at there?
There are 10 candidates on the ballot on Tuesday's election. It'll get narrowed down to 8. Okay. You get 4 votes, obviously, up to 4. You don't have to do them all. And, Ruth C. Louise Yuen, who's the sitting city council president, topped the ticket in 2023 in the citywide balloting for council. She's the heavy favorite to do that again. I think it's fair to say she's considered to be, safe, so to speak. Yeah. She's been the top fundraiser among the at-large councilors as well. But the number 2 fundraiser on the at-large council, you want to take a guess at who that was?
Frank Baker.
Frank Baker, who was a district city councilor from Dorchester up until 2 years ago, sort of retired from the council, but is back and running at-large citywide. And I have to say, running a robust, very visible, and well-financed campaign to date. I'm watching for Frank Baker to be kind of the sleeper candidate in this election. I think given the fact that Josh Kraft, even though Kraft may not perform highly, him being on the ticket, so to speak, helps Baker, who certainly is aligned with Josh Kraft. He's not a fan of Mayor Wu and would tend to be sort of a dissident on the council if he gets back in.
He's got his fans.
He does,
a lot of signs.
It's also a function of sort of the field itself and the demographics of the field. Yeah. Erin Murphy is another candidate who is likely to finish strong, I think, in this prelim. She finished number 2 citywide balloting in 2023.
Remind me, she went to the county and then is now coming back to.
Well, she sought county election,
Okay.
I think two years ago roughly, and did not succeed.
Okay.
But Erin Murphy has another citywide presence. She's been elected 3 times now citywide, and she finished second, not far behind Ruth C. Louis-Jouen last time. That's an off-year election, meaning that there wasn't a mayoral contest. So you tend to see bigger turnouts in mayoral years, but that's an open question Tuesday. We'll find out Tuesday night just what percentage of voters actually show up. 1 or 2 other names to throw out. It's been interesting to us. We did a survey of the city council at-large candidates, which I think was helpful for voters who weren't familiar with this field to read a lot more. And it was a survey that they filled out and most of them gave pretty thoughtful answers, actually.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of candidates who are newcomers who are notable. Alexandra Valdez, who I actually met today when I went to go vote. She was outside Florian Hall with a lot of her supporters, by the way. 33 years old, an interesting candidate from Roslindale, I believe, and she actually works in the Wu administration, or I think she's taken a leave of absence, but she's worked for both Marty Walsh and Michelle Wu, and has an interesting story, and I think cuts an interesting figure for this particular election. There's Henry Santana, who's an incumbent, and he finished 4th last time.
Is he Hyde Park? Is that right?
Henry Santana lived in Dorchester. I think he's in Roxbury now, but he's also been kind of quiet as a first-term counselor, and in terms of he's been not a high performer when it comes to fundraising, and not that money's everything, but it's something.
Yeah,
it's an indicator of your reelection energy, and so it's been kind of low energy from him.
Okay,
I suspect we may see some surprises in terms of people expect all the incumbents to probably just kind of get rubber stamped back in. I don't think we're necessarily going to see that this time.
Okay. So the process will be, you said there's 8 and there's going to be whittled down to how many?
4
4?
In November.
And how many ultimate slots are there open? 2?
Well, there's technically all 4 incumbents are running for re-election. So Ruth C. Louis-Jouen, Erin Murphy, Julia Mejia, who's another incumbent who's likely to get back in.
Yeah.
And then Henry Santana's in that 4th slot.
Yeah.
They all have, it's all equal measure in terms of when they're seated, but their ranking matters in the prelim. If you finish 4th or 5th in the prelim, 5th obviously is outside. It's outside the running in November. But if you finish 5th and you're a challenger, you're kind of in striking distance there, and you could be you get some momentum.
Okay.
If you're an incumbent and finish 5th, that can also be a motivator, and to get your base to say, wait a minute. You're not going to make the cut.
Yeah.
So this has happened before. A number of years ago now, Ayanna Presley, who obviously has gone into greater things in the Boston City Council, no offense to the councilors, but there was a time when she was expected to finish probably 1st or 2nd, and she finished like 4th and close to being knocked out in the prelim. That gave her a surge that really brought her up. I think she might have finished 1st that year.
Okay.
And so that could happen. That's a dynamic that we'll be watching for, and that could happen also in the mayoral contest, where, if Michelle Wu maybe underperforms in this one, and then her base gets riled up, they think they have this in the bag. Anything could happen on Tuesday.
Right. So then, one more quick thing on District 7 that has 11 candidates. Yeah. Anything to look for there that might be a surprise?
That field is really interesting because there's so many people running, and they're all most of them are canvassing pretty hard, knocking doors. I'm hearing the name Maverick Alfonso quite often as a favorite in that seat, and there are two candidates, both named Syed. One is his last name is Ahmed. The other is I'm going to mispronounce his name, but they're both Somali American. Okay. And very competitive there in the Somali community in District 7 between those 2 candidates. There's Sam Hurtado. There's 11 candidates, so I can't remember them all. Yeah. But what I will say is that we're really going to dive a lot deeper into that seat once we get through the prelim, and really once the voters have chosen their two, we're going to do a lot more, I guess, in-depth coverage.
That's quite the X. 11-2.
11-2, yeah. It's really that's a real ground game battle in D7, where you're really going to be talking about winning. With 11 candidates, you could win with 400 or 500 votes potentially.
Go vote.
Yeah, exactly. Please, and do go to .news.com. That survey I mentioned is there. There are letters from pretty much all the candidates in D7 explaining their candidacy as well.
And you won't find that on their websites. When I went to go research some of their websites and their positions, a lot of them didn't have very good websites, but your site has a lot more information.
The survey was helpful, and I want to give credit to Steve Poftak, who's the executive director of the Boston Municipal Research Bureau, who suggested this. We've done surveys in the past, but it was really Steve's idea to let's get the at-large field some more exposure, and I'm glad we did that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So next week, this is the last episode before the preliminary closes. Yeah. So next week we'll have some more analysis of who did what and who didn't.
We will, and we have some. I'd love to have another reporter besides me come on to talk about that. We have some good talent at the Reporter who we'll have 7 or 8 reporters on the street on election night, going to the various sites. So watch our feed on Blue Sky and X and elsewhere, and on our website for sort of real time precinct by precinct breakdown what's going on.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Let's shift over to the rental market. Lots of things happening here. I don't know if you know this, but I made the decision to go to Alston on September 1st.
Why would you do that?
Kind of forgot about
You're
move-in day.
Getting yourself in the Christmas season.
Got stuck in traffic for a bit.
Yeah, I did too. On Labor Day or the day after, I was trying to pick up my daughter, and she goes to school over by Fenway. What a nightmare.
Oh my gosh.
And it wasn't even like
mattresses
the U-Hauls.
Everywhere.
Yeah. Everywhere. It was just, and in fairness, there's 30 or 40,000 new people coming in that day probably, and don't know the roads, don't know anything about us, and they're not used to dealing with people like me driving around like a maniac. But yeah, it's not the best day to be on the roads over that side of the city.
Did anybody get Star Road? I didn't hear of it.
I wasn't paying close attention to that, but if there wasn't, I'd be shocked.
Yeah,
it's like an annual thing. Yeah. But over on this side of town, Dorchester, we obviously have UMass Boston. We have plenty of college students who live here, but not to the percentage and the density of other parts of the city.
Yeah.
But we wanted to know a little bit more as we were thinking about September 1st, and there's some dynamic things happening in the market.
Right.
And we wondered, what is it actually, how is that manifesting right now with costs and with demand? And so we talked to a number of realtors who are, very much expert in the Dorchester market, Mattapan as well. And we talked to Sheila Dillon, who's the head of the city's housing department, and is very well acquainted with the ups and downs of the market in Boston. And what she told us in particular was that it's pretty steady here locally. I mean, there hasn't been much volatility in the rental market and the costs in Dorchester over the last several years, actually. It's been fairly stable. Some increases here. We've obviously seen some new housing stock in the forms of these larger apartment buildings like Dot Block or the building on Marcy that's now open. But, we were still curious about how might the Trump administration policies on students be kicking in.
International students,
Yeah, especially with international students and maybe the chilling effect on them coming to, Cambridge, Boston, et cetera, how that might ripple into our community. The short answer is we don't really know yet. There have been all of the realtors we talked to in Dorchester, and some of them have citywide footprints, by the way, observed that there seems to be more vacancy than usual over in especially Alston, that part of Boston. But here in Dorchester, we only have about 7% of our housing stock is student.
That's pretty low.
Student occupied.
Is it mostly around UMass?
It's mostly UMass. It's Harbor Point in particular, and then Columbia Savin Hill, and then adjacent communities.
Do you have any sense of what UMass's international population is?
Yeah, it's significant.
Is it?
But UMass did put out a statement this week that said this is their. They claimed it was the biggest proportion of in-state tuition students that they've had ever, which I found surprising because UMass Boston way back 50 years ago when it was starting here was really a commuter school. So you would think,
Right.
so maybe they may have to qualify that.
Ever since 2020.
Maybe, yeah. But they were very. It was the headline of their press release, like that they.
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
there's clearly a shift happening.
Yeah.
But yes, UMass over the last couple of decades for sure has had a large international population, and it's noticeable in if you walk around Harbor Point and in the campus. It's clearly the case, but. That may be changing, and it's clearly changing in other parts of our university systems locally. So, bottom line for us this week, Dorchester, talking to the realtors, they said they haven't seen a lot of change in the market year to year. They're observing that $3,000, basically $1,000 to $1,500 a bedroom is kind of the market right now. Something in the $3,000 to $4,000 range is like the average cost. For a 2 to 3 bedroom in Dorchester, and that pans out with what I've seen from friends, family who are attempting to find places.
Crazy.
One other piece of housing news is it's kind of a headline for next week, but I'll mention it. Is we've talked on the show before about the property that's attempting to be built next to Shaman Station. It's like 70 or 80 units.
Yes, and the Trinity, right?
Yeah, the Trinity Financial Project,
Yep.
and it's on Center Street actually. But it's been hung up in the court system for the last couple of years. Dueling lawsuits from neighbors trying to block it.
Yep.
We've just learned that project actually is going to go forward. The lawsuit's been essentially withdrawn by plaintiffs who are seeking to stop Trinity from building it. So, for folks who are worried or hopeful for more housing starts in the city, that's a sign that things may be easing there, at least in that one project.
Okay. I did when I moved here in 2014. I moved to Charlestown, and I had to spend, I believe it was $8,800 to move in, because it was first and last security and broker fee.
Broker fee. That's a big thing that's changed just in the last month.
That
Erin.
is such a good change, in my opinion.
So to be clear, previously, whether or not you initiated,
I think it was
the broker,
me. Yeah.
yeah. If you initiated the broker, you still would have to pay.
Well, that was the thing, is that like you would find the person moving in would find the listing. You would go set up the listing visitation. Often the broker wouldn't even go. They wouldn't even go with you, and then you would pay them a fee. I was like, what?
Yeah.
What is this?
Well, so what's changed now in the state law is that if the landlord has hired the broker to find you, essentially they have to pay the broker, right? So that seems fair.
Yeah.
And that's what has changed thanks to, legislators and Governor Healy, AG Campbell really pushing that through as well. So that's good news, but there could come a wrinkle with that,
sure
right?
there will be.
Is that landlords may decide to pass that cost along in terms of raising rent. Now, Craig Galvin, who's one of the realtors we talked to this week, he does a lot of listings in Dorchester, said that he's warned his clients, like, that's not a good way to do it. I think there's an interest locally in, obviously everyone involved in the industry is trying to make money and make a profit, but tipping the neighborhood too far with rent hikes and costs, that if there's some control at the local level from property owners, especially owner-occupied landlords who, maybe trying to fill a vacancy in the 3-decker that they live in, maybe don't do that. Maybe try to, be reasonable on the rents, absorb that cost. It's a fair cost to get a tenant who's a good tenant. And, the old school way of doing things in the neighborhood would have been, you rent to friends and family, or you don't have to use a broker at all.
Well, that's the thing. Do you think a broker is even, with the internet at this point, do you need a broker anymore? Like,
in my experience with friends done this recently, they've tried it both ways, and it really depends. I mean, obviously, you want to go to an expert who really knows the market and can find you exactly what you're looking for. Some people are too busy to spend their days and nights looking, and I suppose there's a market for that too. But what I like about the balance here is, especially folks, older folks who live in a home maybe and have a apartment or two they can rent, try to find somebody who there's a value proposition there. Finding a good neighbor, finding somebody, maybe they're going to shovel the walk, maybe they're going to, do something other than spend another $300 or $400 a month on the place. That's the old school way. It would be nice if we could see that continue.
Yeah, I agree. Restaurant openings.
We've had a couple. I think before we broke, we talked about the Dot Block Diner.
Yes,
they've been open
it had just opened, yeah.
It had just opened. They're having their grand opening this Friday, or Saturday, sorry. So they're having some specials there.
Okay. Is it good?
A lot of good buzz on. I have been. Yeah, nice. I like it a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, they've got a huge menu. Like it's a diner kind of deal. So there's a huge menu, and that's nice. The newest place is the Nightly. And that's folks in Savin Hill will know this already because they live there. It's above the Daily.
Makes sense.
Which is the small grocery store at the corner of Savin Hill Avenue and Sydney Street.
Okay.
So that's a very popular spot. Above there is now a restaurant space with a bar on the top floor and actually a patio, an outdoor patio overlooking Savin Hill, essentially in the beach and the train, everything.
That's great.
It's pretty cool. Cassidy McNeely, who's on our staff, paid them a visit, did a story last week, which people can see online.
Okay.
And loved it. She said
cool.
it's very cool. Cassie, by the way, has recently moved into the neighborhood, so she can walk to the Nightly, like a lot of folks.
Nice.
And intends to. So this is a property that, back 15 years ago was sort of derelict. It really was like an abandoned. It used to be the Savin Hill Variety. The building itself looked horrible. It was all boarded up. And James Baker, who's Frank Baker's brother, made it a project, tore that building down, built the Daily, and always intended to put some sort of restaurant mix on the top floors, including a function room, and they've done it. So
cool.
It's not fully open. It's sort of in test kitchen mode, but there are hours of operation, especially on the weekend. Folks can go check it out.
I have a good friend on Sydney Street, so Melissa, we're going to the Nightly. Yeah.
Please report back.
Perfect. I went to Comfort Kitchen last night.
Oh, that place is great.
So
How was
good.
it?
Amazing.
Was it packed? Like it was really hard to get a table there. I mean, it's not that big of a space.
No, but they have 2 outdoor patios, which I didn't realize, which was helpful.
Oh, it's perfect for this season. This is patio season still for sure.
Yeah. Speaking of outdoors, Classic Car Show coming up, Dorchester Park.
That's a great event.
Yeah.
Like folks who haven't checked that out, it's in Dorchester Park on the Adams Street side. We call it the Bowl. I live right around the corner, so we grew up calling that area of the park the Bowl.
Okay.
And there's about anywhere from 50 to 100 classic vintage
they fit in that little area?
cars. Yeah, they do. It's big in this kind of the hillside slope. There's also a horse and carriage ride offer, like with the Clydesdales, I think. Yeah. Big horses.
I accidentally took my dog last year to go walk through the park. I didn't know about that. And all of a sudden, there's like a horse coming toward us, which...
Are they not like horses and dogs not friends? I don't know what the deal is.
Not my horse. Or not my dog.
You got a horse, too. You got like a big yard over there.
Yeah.
It starts at 11 o'clock, goes till 3. This is on Sunday,
the
7th.
Cool.
So check it out. It's a free event. There are some vendors there to buy food and stuff, and really cool. The Boston School of Music, which is in Lower Mills, they have kids performing there live, so there'll be some live music there as well.
Have you popped over to Dorchester Park lately? Have you seen their upgrades?
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Yeah, there's new pathways, and they've done some clearing.
New accessibility.
Yeah, it's been coming, and there's some other parks. Walsh Park is almost done nearby, which is another city park. Codman Park, we have on the cover of the Reporter this week, just opened.
Nice.
So in terms of public space, open space, it's been a good season for the neighborhood.
I was mildly irritated while it was happening.
Which one, Dot Park?
Yeah, because they had closed the entrances and stuff, and it was annoying.
And your dog was annoyed, more importantly,
yeah,
right?
He was annoyed. But then we got there once, and it was all dirt, and he went wild in the dirt.
Well, think about bringing them back this Sunday if you're not busy, watching the Bills lose. I mean, if they're not doing that hot, you might want to take a halftime break, take a walk over there.
Let's talk about your trip to Ireland, Bill.
Okay.
How long were you there?
5 days. Okay. Linda and I and our daughters went, and Linda and I were participating in a conference over there called the Kennedy Summer School. It deals with Irish American, U.S. and Ireland politics and current events. And, the cousins over there aren't too thrilled with us at the moment, I'd have to say.
I can't imagine why.
I don't think we're too thrilled with ourselves in this part of the country anyways. That's sort of, they're sort of co-signing that sentiment by and large. It's not, the Irish are not monolithic.
Yeah.
The Irish Americans here clearly aren't. We're very divided on matters politics at the moment. But there's a lot of angst and there's a lot of concern and anxiety. Check in on your cousins over in Ireland if you happen to be like me, an Irish American, and lucky enough to be. So, they're worried. They're like, what's going on over there, guys? Like, rein it in. And at the same time, they have their own issues as a member of the EU, and of course concerns about Ukraine. They're very concerned about Gaza. There's a lot of activism and a profound concern about how the U.S. is sort of failing to lead in the world, and our countries are so inexorably connected, U.S. and Ireland. So we had a lot to talk about. And I wrote about it. I'll have a longer piece in our companion publication called Boston Irish, bostonirish.com, if folks want to read a little bit more about that. But, the bonds of connection are very, very strong, and we just got to keep working on them.
I similarly did some cavorting with folks from across the pond. I went to Toronto.
You went to see Oasis.
I did, yeah.
Oh, how was it?
It was great. I tried to get them to do a tiny dot.
The Gallagher brothers weren't cooperative? That's stunning.
They told me to bugger off. I don't know.
They probably said it a little bit more explicitly than that. Did they seem to get along on stage?
They didn't. They weren't anywhere near each other, so I think that helped. They were great. They were on point. So it was really good.
I'm jealous. I really wish I'd been able to go to see them, and I'm kind of annoyed with them for not coming to Boston. I mean, come on.
I know.
That's nuts.
I know. Yeah, but Toronto is so great. If you haven't been,
I have not. I have not been. I'll put it on the list.
Yeah, for sure. What's coming up next week? Elections, obviously.
Yeah, we'll have a lot of coverage on elections, of course. We're doing Cassidy McNeely has an interesting story on horse stables. Speaking of horses that are not in Dorchester but close by, that are
ones
the
in,
park
like,
rangers.
GP?
Yeah, the
that's
park
cool.
rangers. So she paid them a visit. Seth Daniel's always up to something, and we have some I'm not going to blow the secret now, but we have some exciting new talent coming on board the Reporter next week, and people will be able to. We'll talk more about it next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
And obviously we'll have full recap on the Bills-Ravens game. Who are the Pats playing?
The Pats are playing the Las Vegas Raiders.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I think they used to be the LA Raiders, but I'm not sure. Good luck to the Bills, I guess, and I think we're going to be playing the Bills twice as usual, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
October
are you going
5th?
To the game in December?
No, I think I'm going to be home because they always play around Christmas, which is super annoying because I go there. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, have fun this weekend.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
You too. Thanks.
Right.
Thanks,
See you
Bill.
out there.
Dot Life is sponsored in part by the Dorchester Reporter, Dorchester's own community newspaper and online home for all things Dorchester at dotnews.com. The Reporter, owned and operated by the Forry family, has been laser focused on Dorchester and the surrounding neighborhoods of Boston since 1983. That longevity and experience shows in its award-winning coverage every week. The Reporter is our go-to source for authentic stories about the people, places, and events that matter most to our daily lives. We are proud to partner with The Reporter and Dot News. And you can support the important journalism provided by The Reporter. Just go to dotnews.com to subscribe today. It's the best deal in town and helps keep our local community journalism alive and well. Dot Life. Boston is a union city. If you go south on Route 93, you may see a billboard to that effect. Boston has a rich history of union activity. In fact, former Mayor Marty Walsh was the labor secretary under former President Joseph Biden, and he now serves as the NHLPA president. So I could go on. There's a lot of examples of folks being involved with unions in Boston, but I'm going to let some experts talk about that union history instead of myself. I'm joined today by Darlene Lambos, who is the president of the Greater Boston Labor Council, AFL-CIO. Hi, Darlene.
How you doing? Thanks for having us.
Thanks for being here. I'm also joined by Shaitan Green, who is a business agent at the Greater Boston Building Trades Union. Hey, Shaitan.
Absolutely. How you doing?
Thank you so much for coming. It's so apropos to have you here right around Labor Day. And We're going to talk about the parade that happened just this past weekend for the first time in Boston. But before we do that, I really want to talk about you. So, Darlene, why don't we start with you? Who are you? What's your job? And where do you live?
Well, I actually live in Roxbury. I know I'm on Dot Life, but I do live not so far away from here. And I grew up in Portland, Oregon, came here about 20 years ago and had kids, bought a house. My kids go to Boston Public Schools. They go to BLA. I'm the president of the Greater Boston Labor Council, was elected about 5 years ago for the first time, and then was reelected this past year. And so we cover about 24 cities and towns, 100,000 union members and their families throughout Greater Boston.
And Shaitan?
Hey, my name is Shaitan Green, business agent with the Greater Boston Building Trades Unions. We represent over 35,000 working members and their families, and those members are spread out across 20 different local unions right here in our beautiful city. And, we fight for the working class. We make sure people have access to the middle class and have access to great careers and pathways. I actually am a product of a pre-apprenticeship program called Building Pathways, which kind of kicked off my career. I went to Madison Park High School in Roxbury, and, class of '05. Super happy about that. And, just a lifelong Boston resident who's just I love my city, and I'm very passionate about making it the best place ever.
I think this is a really timely conversation because we're seeing a big push toward trades. I think partially because college is so expensive right now, but also because trades are in such high demand. Whenever I need a contractor or somebody to do some work, I have a hard time finding one. Are you seeing more demand for union membership?
Absolutely. These are great, promising careers. And they change lives and they save lives. I speak to that because my life has been changed and saved through that as well, affording me, the security to really live in my city and raise my family. I'm married with 2 kids, and I had my kids after I joined the union, and it just gave me the confidence to build a family. And that's what I want for everyone who wants to thrive within this city. These jobs are awesome. Just like you mentioned, debt-free education, really high level training for free. And there's so many different trades to choose from. So it's really like, find something you're really passionate about, and it's a promising career, and, it's a pathway to the middle class, affording people, the comfortability of buying a house, having, great wages and benefits. And, if anyone hasn't heard of an apprenticeship, you know what I mean? It's a good time to kind of ask those questions and kind of dive in.
I want to talk about your story a little bit more later on, but Darlene, before we do that, talk about what the Greater Boston Labor Council is all about. You cover more than just trades.
We do. We cover all of the other unions as well. If you can name a worker, we have a union for you. So we have Unite Here Local 26 represents the hotel workers, concession workers over at Fenway who are on strike a few weeks ago. We represent Teamsters Local 25, lots of different teachers, firefighters, you name it, plus obviously the building trades. And we're UFCW 1445 is also one of ours. They represent Stop and Shop workers. So we run the gambit, and they represent lots of different workers throughout the city of Boston, throughout Greater Boston. And one of the things that is so incredible about the unions that we represent, and why I'm so proud to be here today, is not just the rich history and what the labor movement has done for cities and towns like Boston and neighborhoods like Dorchester. It's for the labor movement for the entire country has been fighting for worker protections, better wages and benefits, but also to make sure that our families and our communities can grow and thrive. And that is one of the things that's really important, is that we're a labor movement. We're not just unions that care about what's happening in the workplace. We care about what's happening in our communities and in our neighborhoods.
Absolutely.
Boston, as I mentioned, has a rich history of labor, but Dorchester in particular, there are so many union halls in Dorchester. I can name a few of them: the Plasterers Union, the Carpenters Union, the Electricians Union. I mean, I could go on. There's so many. Why? I mean, aside from the fact that Dorchester's huge, why do you think Dorchester has become the place where so many unions have settled?
Well, just like Dorchester, like other working class neighborhoods where there were people that were struggling and needed a union to be able to have a voice, to be able to confront some of the exploitation that was happening in our companies and neighborhoods. And so like Dorchester, like Alston Brighton, like there are other places, other neighborhoods throughout Boston, working class neighborhoods that really have anchored unions and union halls.
Sure.
Shaitan, you are Pipe Fitters Union, is that right?
Sprinkler Fitters.
Sprinkler Fitters. And where is that headquartered?
That's in West Roxbury.
Okay.
Yep. That's our union hall. And yeah.
What are some of your favorites? Come on, tell us your favorites.
My favorite trade? I definitely would have to say all of them. I got high respect for what we do because when you look at a building, right, you know, I ride by a building, I say, you know, wow. I tell my son, you know, wow, I built that building. You know what I mean? You know, to him, he's like, wow, my dad put up that whole building. But
and you don't correct him, right?
Right? No. But you know, later down the line, you know, it takes a team. It takes a team from the electrical systems, the fire protection systems, the heating and ventilation systems. Like it all ties in together. Yeah.
So, Dorchester obviously is home to a lot of these places. Has Dorchester had any outsized influence on anything, related to the labor movement?
Well, as you said, Boston is a union city. Dorchester is one of the biggest neighborhoods. And I just think, it's beautiful to go from neighborhood to neighborhood and see that union representation, and that just speaks to, as we said, ensuring that there's access, that people can access these things, whether you catch the bus, whether you drive your car. You're gonna, we want to make sure that, when you're ready or as soon as you get the information about unions, that you walk into one of these halls and you sign up. These trades are for everyone. We encourage everyone to explore them, these promising careers.
I think so. What's so great about Dorchester, it's like an example of so many of our great neighborhoods. It's diverse. It has working class people, normal people that are just going to shop in their own, local stores. And that's part of the thing that is so important about unions is that it's not workers drive the workplaces, the economy and the local economy in particular. And so if you have good union jobs, you can support your families, but you're supporting your local economy. So having such a strong union base here in Dorchester and other parts of the neighborhood, other parts of the city as well, really help drive and stabilize and strengthen the local economy.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about what it's like to be a union member, and I want to start that with your story, Shaitan. Do you mind telling the folks about how you got to be a union member?
For sure. My story is one of second chances. Graduated high school, got a little taste of college, but still really couldn't find my footing. Ended up in the court systems on probation, made it out, and I was really stuck. Haven't started my family yet. I wasn't married yet. I was still figuring out, am I going to be able to survive and thrive within my city? Those are real hard questions that I would ask myself. And as soon as I heard the word apprenticeships, it was like, what is that? Started to do my research. I met, former mayor, former labor secretary, and he said, NHLPA. Yeah, and he mentioned it, and he said, hey, my story is one of struggle also. And if you keep putting one foot in front of the other, it will pay off. And with the apprenticeship, it was exactly that. You work a full, 40 hours plus overtime a week while going to school, and local 550 sprinkler fitters, I went to school for 5 years. I didn't picture myself basically kind of getting my master's degree in fire protection, but that's exactly what it was. And it was something that I can walk around and really be proud of too, while making, like I said, the great wages, the benefits, and becoming a licensed sprinkler fitter working my way up from, apprenticeship year 1 to year 5 to becoming a journeyman, and then giving that back, feeding it back into that awesome system of each one teach one.
So as a journeyman, you were teaching apprentices?
For sure, for
Okay.
sure. As you learn those skills, because when you step on a job site, it's a couple categories of learning. A lot of people like the hands-on stuff. Some people like, classroom stuff, maybe videos, visuals. But with the trades, you get all aspects of learning that tie into it. I made real life mistakes in the field, and those were the ones that really taught me my best lessons. And then when you go to class, you communicate and you talk with people that share their own experiences. Hey, I made that same mistake. This is how I grew from it. And I think it takes all that learning to master a trade. And even when you become a journeyman, there's a lot to learn, but I think the value is in giving it back.
So all of that apprenticeship is paid?
Yeah. So, you work your 40 hours, all that's paid. And part of your benefit structure is, all that goes back into not all of it, but a portion of that goes into the apprenticeships and so forth, just like your health care and retirement benefits, and that full package supports the apprenticeship program.
So, Darlene, talk about how that works at a larger scale. How is it just through the dues and the fees that they're able to support this kind of programming?
Well, I think it's pretty brilliant.
It
It's an amazing thing, and the building trades have really been leading the way on this. And my dream actually is to have every union knows this, every union have an apprenticeship program.
Yeah.
This kind of earn as you learn is so incredibly important to how we think about education and investment in our people. And we look at other kinds of training programs, which we call train and pray, because many of these, some nonprofits, but also some companies will set up these programs that you end up with a certificate at the end of like 90 days. And you as an individual worker are supposed to shop that around and say, look what I did. I graduated from this training program, hire me. But when you're with the building trades and you have a union, they are actually trying to support you in getting that job. Once you graduate, you're actually in a job already because you're earning as you learn. It's on-the-job training. So we've talked to lots of different unions about how the building trades has really been such a great example. It's not going to look the same. The level of investment that the trades have given and put into our workforce is phenomenal. It's like 70 million every year
Absolutely.
in just in apprenticeship programs.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of partnership with labor, with management, with employers, with government, that's the kind of thing we want to see, that level of investment of our workers and our workforce, and the level of respect in terms of making sure that people are not just coming out of education with so much debt.
Yeah.
I know.
So much debt.
Yeah.
And making those financial institutions even more profitable. And higher education is now a profitable thing when it should be really about education. So that's why there's so many unions that are really looking at the example of apprenticeship programs and how it can work in their own industry and sector.
I want to talk about the social aspect of it. You've kind of got a built-in brother or sisterhood,
Really,
right?
really.
How was that for you?
Yeah, I have the freedom to go back to the apprenticeship school right now and maybe give some of what I've learned, or, just give some encouragement to the upcoming members that are making it through their apprenticeship. I think even if you're on a job and, you're master journeyman, and, things are changing, your industry is moving kind of fast, so you may have to go get almost like a refresher on something, or you can walk right into the school you graduated from and ask those questions. There's instructors there that, it's just an industry that supports each other, no matter what stage of your career you're in, whether you're apprenticeship year 1 or you're just a seasoned vet, and there's no shame in that, right? Like, we all support each other. And even outside of the workplace, there's tons of there's women, Boston Union Trade Sisters who formed a awesome sisterhood of support for upcoming women that are looking to be in the trades, that need that network of support. Like, the trades are doing a lot, and they're growing and becoming more, just it's not all about what we do on the job site all the time. We're actually worried about how we're doing in our communities, giving back in many different ways, whether it's supporting community groups or I often go to the Boys and Girls Club and join their, trades day and just give education. Kids may be, a little younger, but this is something that you could look forward to. And that's something that we like to show.
If you walk into a union hall, are there people there and you can, ask questions or just kind of shoot the shit with them?
Absolutely, yeah. We have business agents, business managers, organizers, all set up. And that's the beautiful thing. It's unlike a regular job,
Office,
Yeah.
Well, there's also like the retirees too.
Oh.
So that's the lovely thing about actually a union. So you
Yeah.
have young people coming in as apprentices, not just in the construction trade, but there's other unions that have wonderful retiree clubs and programs and groups. And like Teamsters Local 25, they have a very strong futures committee, and then they have a really strong retirees that are there in the building
I
hanging
will
out
tell
in
you,
the union hall.
I walk by the Plasters Union often, and there are grills out there. So they're doing something besides teaching and learning.
For sure.
And then the teachers also have a wonderful retiree, very active in the union. Lots of different unions. The Carmen's Union have they have barbecues. And so it's not just the trades. There's
Yeah.
a lot of folks that when you're part of the union, and what I love about the union family and the labor movement is that you are part of a family. We call each other brother, sister, sibling,
Yep.
because we believe that that's what we're trying to build. We're
Yeah.
building a family that sticks up for one another, stands together, and fights against any kind of exploitation, any kind of that culture that is all about corporate greed that we want to fight against. And it gives workers a voice on the job, but also the confidence to really dig in and be active in their communities.
So given all of that, there's a lot of people out there who don't like unions or are anti-union. So what would you say are the misperceptions about unions out there? And what would you say to those people who are not pro-union?
Well, I worked non-union for many years before actually joining a union, and there's exploitation, And not only that is, you feel like you're alone while you're going through, something that is really, a job is supposed to support you and uplift your family, right? But oftentimes we see people profit off of the backs of workers. And sometimes the worker may not even know. They may just accept that minimum wage and be like, I'm so thankful I just have this job, right? I was able to, my first job was on a project labor agreement site at UMass Boston. And it was awesome. And the project labor agreement sets the floor standard of, unions. This is the union rate, right, that we've, voted for and we collectively bargained for. As well as the benefits, and this is how many hours that need to go into your apprenticeship, and we set that floor base, and you can go higher if you want, but oftentimes when people are greedy, they go way lower than that standard that we set, and I that's not right at all. When I was working non-union, it was so hard. I was very scared that I wouldn't be able to continue to live and raise my kids in a city that I really love. So when we exploit workers, we don't just exploit the worker, that goes into the family. And
The economy.
And the economy, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly right. When I'm leaving the job site and I'm walking home, I'm walking by many shops that I love to eat at and stuff like that. But just feeling like, I can take a vacation. I can afford a vacation. I can even pay my rent in that same month or my mortgage in that same month and feel good, or take my daughter or son out and just feel good. And I just think that oftentimes people are greedy, and oftentimes it's off the backs of workers, and that's where unions come in to show them their worth and show them, if you don't have those skills, guess what? We'll teach you those skills.
I just think that kind of framework and narrative is actually intentional by corporations who want to continue to exploit and make profits over intentionally investing in their own workers. And I think that is something that we as the labor movement are trying to do, is shift that narrative, to really dig into what our values are as a society. What are our values as human beings? We talk a lot about how AI and tech and the kind of the driverless cars and Waymo that are being tested out here in Boston and Massachusetts. And we talk about how, what is that problem that's being solved there? There really isn't, except that over 70,000 app drivers are going to be put out of work. That's 70,000 Massachusetts, greater Boston drivers who are trying to put food on the table, who are just trying to make ends meet, and they will be out of work because a driverless car is going to somehow, because it's progress,
who are already not full-time workers anywhere, who are already making kind of poor, non-benefited job wages, right?
Right.
So this idea of how we want to really enhance and support workers, and having AI and tech actually really build up and center workers and not take away their jobs is a really important part of what we're trying to also share in terms of the labor movement. That anti-union is not really something that comes from our value system here in society. It's actually intentionally something that companies try to separate and divide us.
So when you hear that kind of rhetoric from not corporate shills, but from regular people, it's because they've been indoctrinated? Is that what you're...
Well, I would say some people just don't know. So
Yeah.
if I were to say to you, you know what, I really believe in getting paid for what and being respected on the job. And most people would say, yeah, you really do, you do deserve that.
Yeah.
Well, some people might say, well, I am not respected on the job, so I need to gather with my coworkers to talk about how this is not just an individual problem that I'm dealing with, that it's all of us that are dealing with this. And if we band together, if we go together to our employer and explain that there are some problems, there's some issues, there's some safety issues. It's not just about wages and benefits. Let's talk about health and safety that the labor movement has really brought to the forefront in terms of all kinds of industries, not just construction. We're talking about laundry facilities, massive laundry facilities, heat exhaustion, and throughout labor history, you know that the typical ones where the textile industries, where people were locked into these factories and not able to get out because of fires.
Right.
These were all workers banding together to draw attention to the fact that these are unsafe working conditions. And so most of people, if you were to say, I really work in an unsafe situation, but I don't want to speak out because it's just me and I might get fired.
Yeah.
But all of us getting together and forming a union and speaking out and saying, let's make more profits by making safer working conditions and respecting people on the job, that's what really unions do.
Yeah.
And I do believe that most people would agree with that.
So we're going to look a little bit at the future of labor, and you already mentioned AI, which is certainly disrupting the workforce across all industries. I think the trades are actually one of the safer industries right now when it comes to AI. And I want to talk a little bit about what's happening at the federal level in terms of government policies. OSHA is being cut back, as well as many other departments. Tariffs are impacting the workforce. Immigration is impacting the workforce. How do you see all of these things coming together to impact labor and unions? And you mentioned retaliation, which is also a thing in government right now.
Well, what I think about first is how even in this moment, when there's so much fear that is trying to be instilled in workers, they're still speaking out. And that really does give me hope, where we have Teamsters workers at Republic, sanitation workers speaking out. You still have folks at the Fenway, at Unite Here, Local 26, still speaking out. This is an important, incredible, critical moment where workers are trying to remind people that we are still here. we are still going to speak out against some of the worst of what's happening in our communities. Healthcare is being cut. There's an attack on education. Lots of other Medicaid, Medicare. All of these things are not just workers that are being affected. It's all of our communities. And I think one story that I would love to share in terms of the federal workforce is that the folks that I've talked to that were getting laid off illegally, I might add, were not so, they were concerned about their livelihood, of course, but they were like, what about my cases of discrimination that I'm overseeing at the Department of Labor? What about the senior and that's being discriminated against, or folks with disabilities in housing? How am I going to do my job, and what's going to happen to them? That is like the first thing that some of our union members were thinking about as they were struggling to figure out whether they needed to apply for unemployment or all of these things. And that just breaks my heart.
Yeah.
Because these are folks who have committed themselves to public service and really care about what happens in our communities. And they are thinking not of themselves, but about what's going to happen to their people.
Shaitan, how are you and other folks in your orbit thinking about things like AI?
So we support, any attack on, a union outside of the building trades, like we take that to heart as well, right? Because, we team up with Local 26 hotel workers and SEIU and 32BJ and, just because we're the building trades, like it's going to take all unions to come together, and we recognize that, right? So when you see these rallies and, Labor Day was an example, it's all workers coming together that, fighting for workers, and, attack on one is attack on all, and that's how we take that. And I think it's super powerful because, the union isn't just focused about their particular trade or union. It's we come together as all workers, and fighting for the same thing, respect and dignity. You mentioned safety. Safety's super crucial because the same way you showed up to work, like you need to go back home that same way, right? And when you cut corners on safety, you're just going to continue to cut workers. And I think, besides the money and everything, it's just like putting someone in harm's way for profit. That's just like, that speaks to the core of like why I get up and fight every day for the everyday working people that just want to show up and work and support their family and give back to their community, right? And oftentimes the people that come here and exploit workers, they're not even from here, so they're gonna profit, they're gonna leave, but that impact is still left on the worker. So it's up to us to all come together, united, and stand against anything that's coming against us to harm us.
You mentioned coming together this past weekend.
For sure.
Was the first ever, somehow, how is that possible, Labor Day parade in Boston. Why was this the first one? How is that possible?
Well, actually, honestly, it wasn't the first one. There
Okay.
were many Labor Day parades earlier in the 1900s. So
Okay, first one in our lifetime.
In our lifetime. So we've seen so many. I mean, when I first came to Boston and going to the IBW 103 Union Hall, there were these lovely old pictures of these parades in the 1913, and I remember I'm like going in those halls and feeling so inspired by that, and then also wanting to bring that solidarity and collective power and worker power back to Boston in a way that celebrates workers and changes this notion of that, it is better in a union. No matter what people say, it really is better in a union. And you get a family, you get people who are going to stand by you, and you're going to get people who are going to make sure that you are taken care of. And one of those things on Labor Day was just having people celebrate. It was both festive and militant. Our theme was workers over billionaires. Really, the idea was that we need joy in this time when things are getting cut, when we're heading into a recession, when this administration is getting taken over by billionaires, and we need to also challenge that. And that's what we were doing. We were making sure that people was reminded about what the labor movement stands for, what we will continue to fight for, and that it's not just defensive. We are fighting forward for that world, that democracy we know is possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think this is a great time to bring that 100-year ago plus parade back. So thank you for doing that. Last question. What's your favorite food establishment in Dorchester?
Ooh,
And I
that's
will open
nice.
this up to Roxbury if I have to.
I thought I come to Dorchester often to
Okay,
eat.
perfect.
So I like McKenna's for breakfast.
We eat at McKenna's. We eat at Sweet Life. a
Sweet
lot.
Life, Sweet Life, and also I like bread too. I like bread.
Laura Mills?
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Oh, Lower Mills. Sorry.
There's so many great restaurants in
I know.
Dorchester, and not just in Dorchester. I mean, throughout Boston.
Yeah.
One of my faves is Cocoa Leaf. I'm going to put a plug in for those.
Where is that? I'm not familiar with that
It's
one.
right. It's in Fields Corner.
Okay.
And my kids used to love I still think they go there for the popcorn chicken, but I like all the different sauces. And they do have, they have such great boba tea and all those kinds of things.
Okay.
I love Cocoa Leaf. And we just, I think we mentioned Sweet Life,
Sweet Life,
and
yeah.
McKenna's are kind of a mainstay. We go to breakfast there all the time. And I really just love there are two Vietnamese restaurants on the corner that we always go to. Pho Le and
You're better.
and they're both we love the
Pho Ho.
Pho Ho and
Pho Ho.
Pho Le. So there's
Yeah.
like incredible rich diversity, and we just love to go to all the different restaurants.
We are always looking for good pho, so
Oh yeah,
we'll check out filet.
so good.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you guys joining today and all the work that you're doing for the labor movement here in Boston. And keep on.
Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you so much.
Yeah,
Thanks,
yeah, for
Aaron.
sure.
We really appreciate being on Dot Life.
For sure. Thank you so much.
Dot Life is supported by The Record Company, Boston's leading provider of accessible music creation spaces. The Record Company is addressing the critical shortage of affordable creative space in our city, serving over 4,000 monthly users across 131 communities. They've preserved 47,000 square feet of professional studio and rehearsal space at rates 60 to 90% below market value, ensuring Boston's musicians have a place to create, regardless of economic means. But they're more than just affordable space. They're building career pathways through partnerships with Bunker Hill Community College, offering professional certification programs that lead to sustainable music careers. This vital work is at risk. As creative spaces continue to disappear across Boston, the Record Company needs community support to maintain these essential resources. Their Amplify Boston campaign directly funds space preservation and career development programs. Visit therecordcompany.org today. That's therecordco.org to donate, become a monthly supporter, or learn about partnership opportunities. Every contribution helps keep Boston's music ecosystem thriving. The Record Company, creating accessible pathways to music creation since 2010. Welcome back to Dot Life. For this Tiny Dot concert, the first of season 2, we're doing something a little bit different. We're actually backstage at Jiggin at the Jug, which is tomorrow, September 6th. It's got one run this year, but this is the second year in Dorchester at the Strand Theater, and I'm here with the playwright, producer, director. I don't know what else you do here, but sounds like everything. Melvin Murphy. Melvin, thanks so much for joining us
Yes.
and letting us have a sneak peek.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for having me. We're excited and excited to have you here as well.
Yeah, we're pumped to be here. So tell me a little bit about Jiggin at the Jug.
Jigging at the Jug. Oh my goodness. It's a play based in the 1930s about a young man who's raised in the South with his well-off family. But he grows up and he wants to do his own thing. He wants to start his own corporation business, but he doesn't want to do farming. He wants to wear the suits and get all fancy. So he has to move to the big city up north. So he asks his parents, give me the money, whatever. So this discussion going on, where I don't want to give away too much, where there's no school and all, but he gets to the big city, meets a friend, they become good friends. The friend says, I got to take you to the Brown Jug. He said, what's the Brown Jug? He goes, oh, it's a club with all the happening is. They agree, and he goes, oh, we're going to be jigging at the Jug. So that's how we came up with Jigging at the Jug. But it's a very inspirational play. a lot of good input, a lot of great writers, great actors, great cast, singers, and dancers. So that's all you get for now.
And you wrote the story and the music?
That's correct.
Wow.
I wrote all the music except for two. Our musician, Dominic French, he has a track that he created. It's called Mick French Blue. It's like a jazz. So we use that as he arrives in the city. And then we do a spiritual, Soon I'll Be Done with the Trouble. So that's a spiritual. But those are the only two that I didn't really write.
And do you use local performers?
All of our casts are local. Yeah. First of all, we can't afford to fly anybody. Yeah. Working off a budget here. But they're all amazingly talented. We're choir based. We're gospel choir based. So that's where I know everybody first. Some have done a lot of acting already. Some we had to work with, but they figured it out. So that's where we all come from, right here in Massachusetts.
So are you a Dorchester person yourself?
I was actually raised in Mattapan. Right now, I live in Lynn. Since when I got married, I moved out to Lynn, stayed there. But everything is Boston-based. The choir is based in Boston. All of our surroundings are based in Boston. So
That's great.
So, yeah.
So this is the second year. Only one day, two performances, right? A
That's
matinee
correct.
and an evening performance.
That's correct. Yes. Last year, and want to get a quick shout out to Michelle Wu in the city of Boston for giving us a grant to perform. We felt that Saturday last year was our best day, and I have an admin team. I let them make decisions, and so they decided let's do two on Saturday. Let's do a 12 and a 4, and so I went along with that. And, we'll give it a shot.
That's great. What kind of instruments are involved in this production?
We have a keyboardist, we have a drummer, we have a sax player, and a trumpet player. And a bass player. So we're trying to create that 1930s old school jazz sound, with me writing some of the music, but it gives it life. And these guys are bringing the music to life with the jazzy sound, and of course the singing also applies to that as well. But it's great to have such a good band. They're very talented. We got a couple of Berkeley students as well. So they're having fun. Listen, you're gonna want to dance. I gotta warn you, you're gonna be dancing when you hear some of this music. We did a promo out at the Tango Mango in Newton, and people were coming into the restaurant dancing and swinging with us. So.
Oh, that's great. How did you get into to writing plays, and have you written other things?
I have. We normally do a yearly Christmas play. I wrote a play called Celebrate the King, and it's a modern day version of the birth of Christ. So picture Christ being born in 2025, with cell phones, iPads, and it's become really a big hit, and we do it every year. Originally, I wanted to do that at the Strand, when we got the okay from the Strand, but December at the Strand is just,
It's booked, the Nutcracker.
The Nutcracker. Yeah. That alone just takes up everything.
Yeah.
So I was in the middle of writing this, and I was like, hey, why not give this a shot? But I've done a few plays. I've always liked musicals, The Wiz, The Wizard of Oz, Annie. I've always enjoyed plays, and I've always sat and I think even as a kid, as I participated in some of them, I was always intrigued by what was going on. And then, I got to the point to I like things a certain way. So when I go to a play, I'm looking for certain
critiquing
it. Yeah. But then I say, you know what? Let me write one and do it the way that I think would be best. And there's certainly no knock on the other plays, but and I've been doing it for quite a few years. You write small projects for the church first, and you get the, the results. You see how people respond to it. When we did the Christmas one, we did a few shows at the Hibernian Hall, especially during the COVID. They called me and said, we want you to do the play again because we need some inspiration in the world. So I knew that they had liked it, and so I thought it was on to something. And so then comes Jiggin at the Jug, which is my baby right now.
That's great. Anything else on the horizon?
Faded Rose
okay.
is the next musical play, much smaller cast. This cast has about 25 people in it, and it's great. It's fun, but it's a little bit more work. But Faded Rose is the next one I'm writing. Hopefully you can get that out soon. And right after this, we're shooting for Broadway for Jiggin at the Jug. We're shooting for the stars.
That's
and so
great.
we're on a mission and a task to try to get this onto Broadway.
Well, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
We got you back. Well,
Thank you.
we are really excited to get a little preview. We're going to throw this up on the channels. Everybody come out, and I don't know if there's many tickets left, but if there are, scoop them up.
Yeah,
And,
Strand hosts 1,500 people. So yeah,
what a great Dorchester jewel, by the way, the Strand Theater.
really is. I mean, and we really have to say thank you to the City of Boston, the Arts Department, for supporting us in
Definitely.
this.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Melvin.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We are so excited to have one of the stars of Jiggin at the Jug with us. We get 2 interviews today, and this is Abaya Floyd. Thanks, Abaya, for jumping in. You were not expecting this, nor were we.
I was not, but you know what? In show business, you know, as long as you
Seize
know to
those
say,
opportunities.
listen, stay camera ready, stay ready, so you don't have to get ready, all the wonderful stuff. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. Moment's notice. Love it. Abaya, you are a Boston girl,
I am.
Roxbury, Dorchester.
Born and raised here, grew up in Dorchester, now I live in Roxbury.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And you play Pearl,
I do play Pearl, the leading lady in the show. Yes, ma'am.
and you are a singer.
I am. I'm a professional vocalist. I do backgrounds, I do leads, I songwrite, all the vocal produce, all the things, yeah.
Amazing. Is this your first show?
No, so I've actually worked with Melvin Murphy and Melvin Murphy Productions for close to a decade now.
Oh, wow.
So this is the first revival of this particular show. But we've done Celebrate the King. We've done a number of concerts, ensembles. So
That's great.
yeah, we have a really strong working relationship. So
What is Pearl's story? Just
Yeah.
don't give too much away. But
Pearl is, let's see, how do I say this? Pearl is not shy about taking opportunities that are presented to her.
okay, just like you with this interview.
Just like me with
You
this
are
interview.
Pearl.
Yes, and in a lot of ways, right? Maybe not all of them. Definitely come see the show to find out all of the ways, right? But you know, seizing an opportunity is one thing, and being opportunistic might be a little something different. And I think
Okay.
Pearl kind of blurs those lines a little bit.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, is Pearl kind of a shady character?
I
right.
mean, I don't want to give too much away. There's a lot of bright spots
Okay.
about Pearl, but there's she's a very dynamic character.
I love
I'll
that.
say
I
that.
love
She's
that
very
for Pearl.
dynamic. Yeah.
Do
I
you
like it too.
dance?
I do dance. I'm out. So, I mean, I grew up dancing, ballet, modern, all of that. And now I'm actually a line dance coach. It's one of the
Nice.
many things on my repertoire. So,
Are you at Loretta's?
no, I'm not at Loretta's. I'm with the Boston Rhythm Riders. I actually just finished a tribute this morning for New Edition with the Boston Rhythm Riders. So, yeah, absolutely. So, that's probably the most in what I do dance now,
Okay.
right? And so the platform is amazing, you know, because what we like to, our mission with line dance is to address biological disease in the body by moving. You know, a lot of times people don't realize that by the time they're diagnosed with some kind of chronic disease in the body, it's usually tied. I mean, diet is a really big part of it. Genetics are a really big part of it, but movement of so much of our lifestyle, you know, especially here in the States, is very sedentary.
Yeah.
You know, and you don't realize just how much biological, you know, disease, different chronic disease can come up in the body. And so we share resources about that, and we get people moving, and it's fun, you know. I mean, boots on the ground is a sensation all around the world, you know. We do it all the time. We do it in our sleep. We do it with our eyes closed, you know, everywhere. We do it when we're walking down the street as line dancers. So, and of course, our focus is in the Southern soul world, right? So a lot of times people think line dance and think country line dance, and that's wonderful. Love country line dance. But we focus a lot on Southern soul. So your R&B classics, your Motown classics. I mean, you name it, there's probably a line dance to it.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's pretty cool. It's nice to have the recognition from 803 Fresh with Boots on the Ground, Big Moochie, Cupid. Shameless plug, we will be bringing them to Boston next month, actually. And they're really big in the line dance community. So lots of exciting things. Bringing that kind of southern flavor, the soul, the trail rides, the country twang, all of that, to Boston next month. So we're really excited about that. Lots of stuff.
What's it like to have shows like Jiggin at the Jug available to performers like you locally, tapping local artists, like having these opportunities to perform in your local area?
Absolutely. That's a wonderful question. I'm fortunate to know a lot of young playwrights and a lot of young actors who come out of Roxbury, who come out of Dorchester, Greater Boston as a whole. And to have the city really step in and say, I want to have more people who are reflected in the community use spaces like the Strand Theater is huge, right? Because I think, I won't say that it was dying for a while, but you would see a lot of the same shows. There was even a moment with the Strand Theater before they were doing renovations where it was just kind of like, is there stuff going on there? And like people live there. People, live in Upham's Corner and would be like, what's going on over there? Or like hardly ever go there. So to see so much programming, especially something like Jiggin at the Jug, is huge. There's so many other, like I said, artists, playwrights, actors, composers who are going to go into that space. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Well, we are excited to have this kind of programming available to us right in our neighborhood, not have to go downtown. I think we're keeping you from rehearsal. Melvin's probably going to get mad at us.
No,
so
you're
we're going to let you go. But thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me. This was such a wonderful interview.
And everybody come check out Pearl.
Please come check out Pearl and Sam and all the rest of the characters. It's not going to disappoint.
We all know some of the best family conversations are held at the dinner table.
Yes, but I would rather fail trying to do something I really love and work towards something I'm really passionate about than not do it at all. Dad, I learned that from you. excuse me, brother. I'm sorry. All good. Wilbur Ellis Jr. Wilbur Stone. Just call me Stone. Hey, Stone. Sorry for bumping into you like that. I was looking at all these high buildings. I got distracted.
Yeah, it's nice to see you in the big city.
You ain't from around here, are you? No, I'm not. Just got off the train actually. I'm from the south.
Yeah.
Actually looking to start my own business with like stocks and bonds and stuff like that. Actually, I could use someone to help me out to maneuver around the city if you can help me. Stocks and bonds, huh? I guess I can get you the road with the big wigs and get into all that, but first, we gotta go out and have some fun. No, I don't wanna. Yeah, man, I'm taking you to the Brown Jug. The Brown what? The Brown Jug. It's a nightclub, brother. Look, there's all types of fun things to do here in the city. Lots of cool things to see, but you gonna love the Brown Jug. There's plenty of drinks, plenty of music, and plenty of women. I like them. Son, how you like them, brother? I like them thick too, I guess. Whatever you like is gonna be at the Jug. So you in? Yeah, I guess I'm in. But after that, I gotta find good business people to meet with. Understand me, boy? I got you. Okay, I'm gonna get you the roll with the big wigs, but tonight, we're gonna be jigging at the Jug, my brother. What are you saying? Well, I just got in, like I said, but I got money for a hotel, so I'll be fine. No, look, don't worry about that, brother. I got enough for the locals. Come stay with me. You would do that for me? For sure, man. We got it. Okay. Lucille? Sell fake watches.
Lovely, luscious London, yeah.
Thank you for listening to Dot Life, which is available on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. Dot Life is produced and edited by me, Erin Caldwell. Technical support is provided by Yasser Mahmoud and John Forry. Additional support is provided by the Dorchester Reporter and the Record Company. Thanks to Darlene Lombos, Shaitan Green, Bill Forry, Melvin Murphy, Abaya Floyd, and the whole cast of Jiggin at the Jug for joining this week's show. Thank you for listening, and we would love it if you could share, subscribe, rate, and review the pod wherever you listen. If you're interested in supporting the podcast, visit .lifepod.com for more information. Go Bills!